Welcome back to Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for Stage 4 of the Tour de France. We have a crazy stage again, finishing in Rouen. It is a hill stage. It looks eerily similar to Stage 2, but this one I think was even harder with a steeper wall and very technical, tricky descents, a lot of nervousness, some crashes, 174 km from Amiens Métropole to Rouen. And indeed, there's no categorized climbs for the first 124 km. The crosswind died down and went to maybe 15 km an hour, not enough to cause echelons and not enough exposed sections. Too many people living in this part of France, unlike the southeast. And then the hill zone begins with about 50 km to go. We have a gradual climb, but it's just like Stage 2. 30 km to go, a 3-minute, 1.3k, 9.2% climb with a narrow entry, then a plateau, and then a succession of 3 hills, 2 Category 4s, and then a Category 3, 900 meters, 7%. 1.8k is 5%. That one's on a big road, though.
Yep.
That one's less steep and on a big road where there's a washing machine, a short plateau, and then a really twisty descent before the kick up to Saint-Hilaire. 800 meters at 9%, 5k's from the finish. And then the actual finish of this is not as hard as the other day, very short uphill sprint.
Now, you spoke about the hills, etc. It's also the fight to every hill, and that's why you mention washing machine. For the newer viewers, it's basically, okay, we're trying to position ourselves for the next climb. In doing so, we wave our entire team to the front to stay in position, but another team does the same. So they wave across our team, and another team waves over that team. That's a washing machine effect at the start of the peloton, which could lead to trouble, could lead to squeezes, etc. Riders being squeezed out of position, potential crashes. That's what makes positioning in cycling races before these hills more stressful, especially with the amount of road furniture and weird-ass corners in today's stage. It was kind of ridiculous in the last 50 kilometers every now and then in a certain descent, in a slide uphill, stuff like that. But we got to start off slow, Patrick. We're going to start off slow. Breakaway goes up the road, and I did my rant yesterday. We get a 4-man breakaway, 3-man initially. We've got Gachinard. Yay, I love him. Next to that, we have Abrahamsen, and we've also got Lenny Martinez. And we hear from the commentator on TV, the on the motorbike person, that they asked the Bahrain car, what was the motive to go in the breakaway? We expected more teams to try to go in the breakaway. And we did too. I had a 5-minute rant yesterday about potential stages like this, and Stage 2, for example, where 15 teams in this peloton have 0% chance to compete for the victory here, and 10 teams have 0 chance to finish in the top 5 here, in my opinion, on a race as difficult as today's stage.
Picnic I can't criticize. Only you look at Stage 2, genuine chance. FDJ Gregoire, genuine chance. Vauquelin, they legitimately could have won Stage 2
yes,
if it was played a bit differently. The other teams, and I was saying it on the watch along, thanks everybody for listening. This episode is brought to you by Morton, a word on them in a second. Little Trek and Intermarché, they got to be very careful. Because Van der Poel right now doesn't want the green jersey. Philipsen crashed out yesterday. They're just reassessing. Van der Poel wants no business in the 50-point pure bunch sprints, but there's not many of them. And
what you mean is, he's okay with having the green jersey, but he doesn't want to go to the struggle of bunch sprints to get it.
Yeah, like if it's handed to him on a platter, and all he has to do to keep up with the lead is follow in some intermediate sprints, and which are not that hectic, albeit yesterday's was, but to follow fifth wheel and just take fifth, then it becomes almost you have to do it. And if he wins today, if he does okay in the TT tomorrow, I don't think he'll take points. If he wins 6 or gets good positions in 6 and 7, which are 50-pointers, and then he's sitting on 200 points, and he's got a 100-point lead, I think on the first rest day, Alpecin will tell him, you might want to think about contesting some intermediate sprints, and Caden's not going to win it anyway, so we can go for you in the IS. Now, that's why I thought Trek with Schelmo's not going to win. Naes is injured. Schoens, Simmons, even Naes himself, Sturven, breakaway's their good opportunity to win. Breakaway takes away green jersey points from Van der Poel. Bini the same with Louis Barret, with Jonas Ruch, with these guys. Biggest chance to win is Zimmerman. The biggest chance to win is the breakaway. I was really surprised to see such little enthusiasm to get in the break because, like, honestly, Benny, I look at these stages and you see just open the last climb, everyone listening knows.
Yep.
5Ks to go, steep as fuck wall, Tour de France stage on offer. Literally, two guys have a 90% win probability, and then there's a 10% chance for some attackers like a Visma or Vauquelin Picnic Gregoire. That's it.
That's it.
No one else has a chance.
Exactly. So the chances to get something out of the stage is to do it early. And we don't see that with this breakaway of 3 initially. Asgreen is the one that joins later, so EF must have thought, okay, it's a bit of a weird move by EF, in my opinion, because I wanted them to be in the breakaway, because I want to see a large breakaway in this stage. But if you see that it's a 3-man breakaway, to then try and bridge solo towards a 3-man breakaway, that makes it feel like that's a useless effort, because then it's a useless breakaway. Then it's a breakaway that won't make it. So I like seeing EF trying to go in the breakaway, but too late. Maybe if they go in the early one, maybe then another team joins as well. Maybe then it's more than 4 riders. Anyway, 4 riders in the breakaway. They get a gap of 2 minutes. Alpecin is controlling, the only team controlling in the peloton. Credits to Dillier and maybe Verstringen as well. Not sure if he did much, but saw Dillier most of the time at the front of the peloton. Gap is basically a minute 30, a minute 20, a minute 10 towards the important phase of the race, because weirdly, in today's stage, you spoke about it initially on the watch along and also when it comes to the route, the intermediate sprint is 3 kilometers before the first important climb. Outside of the logistics of that, isn't that just dangerously planned?
It's weirdly planned. Whether it's dangerous or not, I'm not sure, but I think it is probably, because you have then the sprinters teams fighting the GC teams for position. What's more weird to me about it is I went and had a nap again. I've been having some good ass naps, I'm telling you. I've been pacing myself. I know how to pace myself, taper, everything. This is our 6th Tour de France, not our first rodeo. And there was a lot of nothing happening in this stage, where it could have probably done with an intermediate sprint with halfway the stage on the random plateaus there in a village, and then given us something to talk about for 15 minutes. Instead, the intermediate sprint happened. I don't really know who won. I don't care. No one cared at the time, because it happened, and then they're turning right into the pivotal climb. Like, all right, irrelevant. It was just strange.
Mila ends up winning from the peloton. There's still breakaway riders ahead, where Abrahamsen takes it from a bit of an early attack away from the others, where he wasn't really contested much. Milan takes it in the bunch ahead of Binyam and Merlier. There was a small akkefietje, we call it in Belgium. I don't know what the English word is for akkefietje, but it's basically Rex going to the right and Turns still being there. The lead out's almost colliding. Looks like Rex went into Turns. The thing is, you might be asking, okay, why is Turns still there, etc.? That is because Milan is taking the full points, but the goal of the little track is for Turns to then take away points from other sprinters.
I think the risk reward calculation there is wrong, because first of all, there's 2 guys for green plus an MVDP if they let him into it. It's Bini and Milan, and Milan's the heavy. To me, this is Milan's green jersey competition to lose. If you like many of you all, again, Visma don't have a rider going for the green jersey. Anyway, I still looked at every stage profile last night. Where's the intermediate sprint placement?
Yeah.
All of the intermediate sprint placements are insanely early in stages. They have positioned on 90% of the stages, the intermediate sprint before any climb. There's one stage where it's like 4Ks after a 1.5K 6% climb. Alticam, Ventoux, Col de la Loza, it's on the false flat valley in the first 20Ks. So
I like it for break formation.
For break formation, because Trek will extend it and control longer, but this is not a green jersey competition suited to a Bini, who, by the way, is not climbing that well. Even a Pedersen, because you can't get in a break, then go over some hills, and then take a full intermediate sprint point delta.
Especially because stages like today are ridden so harshly from the GC teams that a Pedersen would have a hard time surviving a stage like this. He wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't see it. It's MVDP and then like pure punchers.
Yeah.
And then guys under 70 kegs. So I don't see it. Now, maybe he comes 8th, takes some points. I don't know. But to me, Milan's the heavy favorite. And then to your point about Turns, so then the risk reward, he's on a yellow now.
Yeah.
You're on a yellow. If you get a second yellow, you're out of the race. Now, it was Rex moving into Turns. I don't think Turns did anything wrong. But the point is, he is trying to still squeeze past a Rex who's closing him. Don't put it in the commissaire's hands.
Especially when they're trigger happy on giving the yellow cards to begin with.
If there's a crash in a sprint, someone is getting a yellow.
And it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, that shouldn't be the case, but that is what they're doing, especially at the start of the tour. And if I was turns, I would have backed off because, first of all, Binny's already ahead of you. You're not taking points from Binny. Like, you're taking a point from fucking, I don't know, Ackerman or someone.
Yeah, but my question now is, we've had this discussion over the years with intermediate sprints, okay? Lead out should try and take points away for the sprinter. Why have we come to the conclusion that now it is not worth it from risk to reward while it was in 2021 and 2022? Is it because recently we've seen more crashes at intermediate sprints? And more erratic behavior?
I just think it's a point of emphasis. Like in the NBA, they would often have points of emphasis, certain rules that they would say, okay, we're going to actually police these rules really more aggressively in the past. We know, and I think it's just a point of emphasis.
So you're saying that the commissaires are applying the rules more strictly than back then?
Really, really strictly, yeah. Oh, they are.
Deviation police did work in that? Or?
Deviation police, well, I said we retired. We don't have to do it anymore.
If anything, we sometimes have to police the other way around now.
Yeah, like Coquard got a yellow. I mean, me and you discussed ad nauseum how the crash happened. You know, I wouldn't say he's blameless, but I wouldn't have given him a yellow either.
Yeah, it's like, for me, a UCI commissaire needs to be able to apply the rules as written, but being able to interpret it with understanding of how a cycling race works. And in my opinion, yesterday, it's okay, Coquard caused the crash by doing that move. That's why we give a yellow card instead of looking at it from the perspective of, does giving this yellow card disincentivize such behavior in the future? Not necessarily, because that's the kind of behavior that riders do unconsciously that they won't be able to fix.
Well, Coquard doesn't know what he did wrong.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to illustrate it. And it's like people that hit a dog 2 hours after it's peed on the carpet. You know, it doesn't know.
Hit a dog? Oh, I fought with a car.
You know, he doesn't know what it did, and it's just pointless.
Why would you hit a dog with a car 2 hours after it pissed on a carpet?
No, with the hand. Toby hits me a lot, actually. Like, if he wants 2 hours in the mountains, he lets me know. So
you're the doormat here.
The doormat to Toby. Toby really like runs my day pretty much. Anyway, but speaking of the mountains,
I was gonna do the segue today.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, speaking of the dog, every now and then you go into the mountains with a dog. Do you use Morton Nutrition during those adventures?
Exactly. This episode is brought to you by Morton, the fueling choice of the world's best cyclists and me in the mountains, including riders in the Tour de France. I crunched an Ordino yesterday. I was feeling really, really good. The hydrogel goes down perfectly, even in hot conditions. It's hot here in Andorra. Your throat can get dry, and it's not one of those sticky gels that, you know, is half dissolved in your pocket and tastes horrible going down. It's really, especially in the heat in summer, or if you're in Australia, if you're in summer in the Northern Hemisphere now, or in the Australian summer, I'm telling you, the Morton gels are unbelievably good and easy to digest. And that's because of their hydrogel technology. It allows you to absorb more carbs with less stomach trouble. And that's another reason I'm climbing. We don't have much choice around here, as Benji knows. Out the door, we got an HC Cole, 10Ks, 7% to 2,000 meters. But I got to eat. It takes me a while to get up there. I got to eat during the climb, and I still digest it well. So whether you're racing, training, or just trying to stay consistent on the bike, Morton's drink mix makes fueling simple, effective, and gut-friendly as well. That's another tip. Sometimes you can forget to get a gel out of your pocket. Well, if you want a hot tip to survive the heat, mix 1 sachet of Morton's drink mix with 500 mils of water, refrigerate it ahead of time. It's in your bike, and then every time you want to take a sip because you're thirsty, you're getting the carbs in. The hydrogel remains stable. So just make sure you let it thaw before drinking and consume it within 24 hours. Right now, you can get 20% off drink mixes or gels with code MortonTDF at morton.com. The code's valid through 27 July 2025. I guess that's when the tour ends, Benji. So
yes.
I've now realized that. I don't know what day it is right now. I have no idea where we are.
July 8th, my friend.
Yeah, but it's a Tuesday, apparently.
We're in Italy.
The code excludes bicarb. It's one-time use per customer and can't be combined with other promotions. So feel smart, ride like the pros, try Morton. Okay, Benji, the meat of the stage, 30Ks to go, first climb.
Wait. We got to talk about Juju.
Oh, true.
Julien Alaphilippe.
I feel so bad for him, man.
We see him dropping off the back of the peloton. He clearly has a mechanical, has a teammate with him. And those two riders go to the team car. Alaphilippe gets off his bike, and the mechanic comes out of the car with a wheel. And I'm like, we're both like, we're screaming at the TV. this is the final of a Tour de France stage on which Alaphilippe has a chance to a top 7, top 5 position maybe, if he has a really good day. In that case, before the important climb with 30 kilometers to go, there's about 3 to 5 kilometers to go towards that climb. There is no way you can change the wheel, give the bike a push, and him being faster than just giving him a bike.
I couldn't believe it. Like, what's the chance you just like you don't change the bike at the start of the stage and you change the wheel when the racing's not on so you can save the spare bike for later.
Yeah.
Maybe Alaphilippe, I know he seems a bit like
finicky,
superstitious, or finicky, like you said. Maybe he really doesn't want to change bike. I'm not sure that's the case here. You have to change the bike.
Yes.
Because if he has to change again, well, his stage is done anyway. If you've got to change a second time, you're finished. And does he come back with the bike change straight away?
Maybe.
I think it makes a big difference, man. Like 15, 20 seconds.
I think he does.
Look, as a proportion of these climbs, Benji, so he has to come back on a 1.3K 9% climb that takes them, let me guess, 3 minutes.
Fair.
And so he has to do it in 2 minutes. Fuck, he had to close a big gap through the convoy. Anyway, 15 to 20 seconds is a very high proportion of that 3-minute climb. And to go even harder on 9% is putting you deeper in the red. So I couldn't believe they didn't just change the bike. And that was him done. Felt bad for him. Good stage for him. But he's over. Abrahamson takes the intermediate. Milan won the bunch sprint, as we said. We went through the intermediate already. Groupama wins the drag race. Again, Lewis Askey is the GOAT at positioning. There is literally nobody better into the point. If there is a point in a race that everybody wants to be first wheel into in a corner, Lewis Askey is the best in the world. Omloop Nieuwsblad onto the Muur. Stages in this race on stage 2. Let's say it was him today. Clément Rousseau's also excellent at it.
Yes.
For FDJ, they've been, and because they do all those French races like Dunkirk, where it's literally this region and they're just fighting for these. But yeah,
they know the streets, my friend.
They know the streets. They're so good at it, and they just wash. And it's not even a big train.
Yep. It's
like 3 guys shoot from the back. There's a crash though, Benji. Pretty high up the bunch. There's a road narrowing after the climb. Who was pacing on the climb though? Sivakov and Soler were changing.
UAE were indeed pacing, but the crash you're talking about happens.
That was after
the crash of Farrakol. So on that climb, we see UAE pacing, and towards the top, we see, I think, Soler taking over a bit, which then causes Alaphilippe to be completely doomed. And he does make it back a little bit, but then he gets dropped again. So from this point onwards, we'll stop talking about Alaphilippe. He's out of the race, basically. But in that crash, after that important climb we just mentioned, selective climb, to be honest, quite a bit of the peloton is already gone. But the crash, like you have said, happens relatively 35% into the peloton, I would say. On the left side of the road, wide road goes into narrow road. And this is, in my opinion, an organizer's mistake and something that a UCI safety manager in a race should call out. If there's a change from a wide road into a narrow road, it should be a gradual narrowing, not a instant narrowing where half the road just disappears. Because that makes it so that the peloton will wait until the last moment to try and move up and move past people, and doing so. And that will cause people to not be signaled in time.
Yeah.
And they will ride into the barriers, or they will brake check, or they will crash as a consequence.
We've all been there on the motorway. Yep. When there's a lane closure, they don't signal it 100 meters before. I hope not. There's gradual signals narrowing the road, so you have time to move over. That doesn't happen here. I mean, we saw it many. I was like, crash, they're going to happen. The descents here, I think UAE were pacing. To me, UAE were pacing the descents harder than the climbs, which suggests to me, not the last climb, but the climb at 28 Ks to go. Yeah, Sivakov went hard, but Groves was there. You know, Muris is there. It's not Soler's there. They weren't trying to launch him early. It probably still hurt Van der Poel's legs. To me, UAE, I think their priority number 1 was not crashing in this chaos in this road furniture on these descents.
I think so too, because we initially spoke about it earlier in this podcast that these last 30 kilometers have traffic islands in the descents, after the descents, etc. So UAE pacing on the climb helps make the group a bit more selective, but also helps position themselves over the top in doing so, making them fast in the peloton. If a crash happens in P20, P25, UAE is ahead of that. And UAE did that perfectly for this climb, but also for the next 2 climbs that followed after that. And we see that continuing from that point. But I will say, I got to give credit to a different team as well, who also did that, where they don't show up every single descent, but every now and then Movistar comes to the front with Ivan Garcia Cortina, Oliveira, and their positioning for Mas has been excellent in multiple stages this year.
Nelson Oliveira is unbelievable. Like, he's 36, 35. I don't know how old he is. He's doing one extra year next year. Is he
retiring? No,
one extra year next year.
Nice.
Garcia Cortina, I think, has a lot of potential. Probably could get more out of it, but this Tour de France he's been excellent in positioning. Really, really excellent, those two for Mas. And these are not stages Mas will be... When Movistar see this profile of the first week, when the route was revealed, they'd be thinking, fuck. Like, Enric's getting, and Enric himself, he's fighting. It's not just, it's okay to have 2 good rouleurs, but the GC contender also has to hold the wheel.
His descending has improved from Mas over the last year and a half, because that was a problem 2 years ago, a significant problem. But I want to bring it to a different team as well. We spoke about UAE, we spoke about Movistar. What did we see from Alpecin on these first 2.5 climbs?
Alpecin won an easy race. It's an uphill kick. If you bring Van der Poel there with fresh legs, he wins. We saw that on stage 2. And UAE kind of want the opposite. They want to keep numbers for the descents, but they want to make it hard. It's really tricky. I think they balanced it really, really well. UAE paced the descent. They begin pacing the descent with Soler. Tim Wellens quite wisely says, Mark, I'm going to need you to move. I'll do this descent now.
I will say I feel like it was a bit more on if we talk about the third last climb, and especially the gradual climb that comes after the point you're talking about, on those climbs, UAE also started hammering it on the climb. You think there's a thought in their mind that they're like, MSR style, let's try and make it as hard as possible to try and get much of Van der Poel in trouble because Pogačar wants his 100th victory today?
Oh no, they wanted to win 100%. 100%, but there's also, we saw on the sweeping left-hander when there was road furniture out of it, you want to be single file.
Yeah. And
it's easier to be single file at the front. And so I think UAE were doing 2 things. They were strong enough to do it for the most part. But then there's a key point, 10Ks to go. The positioning battle has been really intense into the previous 2 climbs, which are narrower entry, and no real flat sections. It's uphill descent. The next climb's only 5%, 4.5%. It's a wide road. And so UAE take control, and we see Campenaerts moving up with Jurgensen, with Van Aert moves himself up, even with Benoit. Vingegaard had been quite nervous, ate a shitload of wind today, probably too much wind again himself. Vingegaard's been on Pog's wheel, and then that lead out comes, and then Campenaerts just starts to absolutely drill it, waves over UAE, but for UAE, it's actually not a big problem. They're in P6 to 9. It means it's single file. Narvaez can maintain his position with Almeida. They don't have to do the descent. And so Visma were clearly trying to put it in, Visma were trying to split it, and they split it. This descent is not, it's 7%, very, very twisty. 2/3 of the way down the descent, you can't even see it on the profile. There's a 300-meter kicker that comes out of 2 90-degree corners, and if anyone drops the wheel in front of you, it's going to split.
Talking about dropping the wheel, what was the order of the Visma riders that we saw in that group? Because we've got Campenaerts at the front, Vingegaard in second wheel, as high up in his train as possible, just in case.
But eating too much wind, probably.
That's true, but it's probably worth it for the risk of crashing, in my opinion.
I mean, if your own teammate crashes you, then it's all over. It's
happened before.
Yeah, exactly.
Tony Martin's not in the game anymore, so that's a benefit.
But you're right, and then, maybe Jurgensen, Benoit, and then last was Van Aert. And then Remco dive-bombed Poggi at the start of this descent and took the wheel of Vingegaard off him. Pogačar wasn't happy not being directly on the wheel of Van Aert for a good reason, because out of the end of this descent, Poggi reclaims the wheel of Van Aert, and then Remco drops the wheel out of a corner, has to do a full sprint back. There's splits. Felix Gulls behind.
After a descent, it's not exactly a surprise.
Lipovitz was fully gapped on the descent on the kickers.
Yes.
And it's a wide road, but there's these rollers which you can barely see on the profile.
Roglic's still there, though, at this point.
Roglic still there in good position. Van der Poel in good position. So we're still going in with all the main favourites into the final climb. Pogačar, though, has two teammates, crucially, which he didn't have right there in Rouen in stage 2. He's got Narvaez and Almeida. Narvaez begins the nuclear lead out. Vingegaard moves onto his wheel. You can't actually see at the start of this climb was like 7%, but then it goes left, right, and then it's a wall for 400 meters, 300 meters, really, really steep. Like we're talking 15, 16%, very hard climb. Almeida takes over from Narvaez, says, I'm going to have this dance. He starts hard pacing, and then Pogačar jumps. Van der Poel doesn't respond. Vingegaard has to actually close, because he wasn't on Pog's wheel. He has to close to the wheel of Pogačar.
Is that a mistake, or was it impossible to move up past Van der Poel?
I think Vingegaard should have... You got two options. You either just accept Van der Poel as the wheel and sit on his wheel and take a proper draft, or you just fully claim the wheel off him. I think sitting like half off his wheel, half wheeling him, I know it's really steep, so it doesn't matter, but that's probably the worst of both worlds.
But
I don't think it makes a big difference, frankly. But anyway, Pogačar, it looks like Vingegaard's holding him. The gap to everybody else is huge. Vingegaard's following. Pogačar's out of the saddle, like smashing it. We think he has to sit down at some point. The meters are ticking down in the top ticker. 200 to go, 150, 160, 100. And then Vingegaard it looks like he full stops.
Yeah, he looks behind. He's like, please someone take over from me. He looks in front of him again. I'm like, okay, Pogačar's gone. Stage is over. Pogačar takes the stage. Okay, that's what I expect. Gap to the others is huge, by the way. I'm talking not just 10 meters, it's like 30, 40, 50 meters at this point. So those two had a huge gap before Jonas Vingegaard loses the wheel, looks behind. But just before the top, Pogačar stalls in tempo. And Jonas Vingegaard finds a last grasp of air on this climb, fires it up again, and gets back to the wheel at the top. Now,
it reminded me of Puy-Marie.
It did in some sense, but we got to talk about it from two angles, because I would argue that from one perspective, you'd say, okay, Pogačar stalled, he was out of energy, etc. There's going to be people that are going to say he sat up on purpose, but
bro, what?
After that attack, it would make no sense, right?
Why would he sit up on purpose?
I don't believe that's the case either.
You've just done the huge effort. Vingegaard looks like he's fucked. Right away for a glorious solo victory.
Like,
and
even the
time.
argument of he wants much of Van der Poel to come back to stay in yellow doesn't make sense either.
No.
So I see no argument, no valid argument for Pogačar slowing down in tempo on purpose. That was because he went over his limit doing his attack, which is fine. It was probably one of the crazier 2-minute attacks I've seen in a while.
Yeah, but he knows that if he gets the gap over the top and it's mano... Because the problem is, it's not like normal cycling 10 years ago. There's no one to help Vingegaard. Because the gap from these two, let's say Pogačar's... Okay, we all agree, Pogačar's the best cyclist in the world, best ever.
Yeah.
Vingegaard is then in his own tier.
Yeah.
But then... And there's a gap. And then the gap still from Jonas to anybody that might help him is still big. So if they're both fucked, but he's got the gap, it's still mano y mano.
Yeah.
And I think they just both stalled.
I think so too. But we can conclude then that at the top of this climb, Jonas Vingegaard was able to follow Pogačar on a brutal 2-minute attack, which on this type of attack, wouldn't it had it on my written spreadsheet that Vingegaard would be able to follow Pogačar at that tempo? Because that was a serious attack.
Like Pogačar, very, very impressive. He's on the aero bike today. Maybe that helped him in the final sprint. But yeah, just out of the saddle the whole time. Remco chose to do his own pace behind, but basically they full sprinted on 15%. I'm just watching the final bit now, and when Pogačar like extended right at the end to drop Vingegaard, but like Vingegaard comes back at him quicker at the end. Well, he must by definition to get back to the wheel. That's also I got a new epithet for everybody.
We need like a merch t-shirt with all our like super obvious quotes, because this shit's getting extreme.
The rider behind that is catching and gaining on the rider in front is riding faster than the rider in front.
I'm trying to figure out a situation where that's not the case. What if the rider behind is standing still? Is he riding faster than someone going backwards?
Then the one's riding backwards. I think
you're wrong by the law.
maybe Pog thought he was still in the wheel
Well,
and just stopped over the top to not get counted.
he looked a bit tired.
I'm trying to be generous. Like,
I think, come on, we got to be enthusiastic. There's 2.5 weeks of the tour coming. We saw Vingegaard follow Pogačar on a climb. We got to overreact right now, and we got to look at a situation where we've got 2 people fighting for the Tour de France victory right now.
This is the big difference.
That's not the case, but
what we see here compared to the Ardennes, Benji, is so different. When Pog goes in the Ardennes on Redoute,
yeah,
he has a gap straight away. And so
but Jonas is not there.
Jonas is not there, so he can immediately, like, he just does the minimum possible to have a 10-second gap at the top of Redoute. And then he doesn't go near over his limit, and then he just drills it in the rolling terrain. See you later, Group 2 syndrome, curtains. Here, to drop Vingegaard, he can't do that. He has to go absolutely full. But yeah, I mean, they both went full. It was really impressive. I think I'm trying to see the gap to the top at Remco. I think Remco paced this pretty well.
I think he shouldn't try to follow a brutal attack by Pogačar or Vingegaard on a climb like this.
Remco.
He should pace any climb in this entire Tour de France, unless it's like an actual uphill sprint. He should pace any climb with, if there's space to come back afterwards, he should pace any climb at his own time trial uphill mountain tempo.
I think he paced it pretty well. So credits to him. But now we have the situation. Over the top, we have a bit of a plateau, then a descent, and then a short kick up to the line. Pogačar's on the front. Vingegaard's not immediately relaying. And in the group behind, we've got Almeida, won't pull. Van der Poel, won't pull. Jorgensen, won't pull. Remco has to chase.
Who's the 5th rider?
Only. Respect Oscar Only.
I think he was too cooked to pull, I'll be honest.
And then the group just behind Remco, it's a really small gap I'm seeing now. Very small gap to Vauquelin, Gregoire, Skelmoser.
Yeah.
But Remco on the flat just starts to drill it. And that puts those guys further behind. So Poggy does relay for a fair bit. Doesn't get a turn from Vingegaard until maybe 4.3 Ks. But by then, Remco's pretty much shut the gap.
Why does Vingegaard take over in this situation? Because if they go to the finish line together, you'd on paper say Pogačar wins the sprint 9 out of 10 times, unless it's Primari.
You ensure a 4 bonus second delta. You make Pog lead it out. You can stop riding in the last K like in San Luca. You can still try and win the sprint like in stage 11 last year. And you can make it a longer period of time that you're caught.
Exactly.
So that then Jorgensen can just do one attack in the last K.
Fair. And then we enter the next phase of the race where Remco actually brings the others back. And then we get into the fun group dynamic phase of these last 3 kilometers roughly. And we get that group of 7 riders now in total, where we see Gregoire, Vauquelin, the 3rd rider, I completely forgot, Skelmoser, in the background, gradually trying to come back. But it's going to be difficult for them to come back because we got attacks left and right in the front group. And
straight away,
I think Jorgensen was maybe the first one once the group came back. Took maybe 2-3 seconds after a corner, and then Jorgensen, bang, goes on one side of the road. Pogačar sees it, he speeds up, gets to the wheel. So that's the one Pogačar actually closes himself. And then I'm thinking, okay.
Because he doesn't know Almeida's there yet.
True, but on top of that, I'm now thinking, who's going to be the next rider to do so? On paper, you could say Visma could try and roll attacks on Pogačar here, but I was more looking at...
It should be Vingegaard.
It should be?
Well,
it's an option. I think it's a valid option.
You said roll attacks.
Yeah.
Rolling attacks with 1 rider is less effective than 2 riders.
Well, you can also roll attacks with 1 rider plus other people in the race.
And use the other ones, yeah.
But the question then is Pogačar going to care about only attacking? Only who's completely fucked at this point, by the way, so that was not going to happen.
Only rode a good final. Remco rode a better
Pogačar
final.
won't close that. And that's where we see... Did we see Almeida coming to the front before we saw Remco attack or after?
Yeah. Almeida begins pacing the short descent. Jorgensen in the wheel, then Vingegaard. Then he stops on the descent with 3.1 Ks to go, takes a swig of his drink. Only and Remco, I think, rode a very, very good final today. They basically didn't put a foot wrong. We have Gregoire and Vauquelin coming, and Skelmoser nearly coming back on the descent. And then it's just so fast downhill, and then out of the corner we see Remco Evenepoel wind it up. He attacks with 2 Ks to go. The problem is he does it through a corner. Almeida gets in the draft. He has a short gap, but Almeida's still getting draft. Next corner, He takes a really, really bad line, nearly crashes, has to brake, and Almeida's back in the wheel through the next corner. So Almeida's, I would say, the biggest improvement from Almeida this year is his like intangible skills, his cornering, his positioning. To me, that's more like I didn't expect him to be there doing this. Almeida was the MVP for Pog today. He gets on the radio at 1.5 Ks to go, say, what do we do? What's the play? Jorgensen winds it up though. He goes from the right-hand side past Almeida, who didn't really see it coming. But now we're 1.3 Ks from the finish. And Jorgensen had a gap. He takes a better corner than Remco, but Almeida's just so strong. Almeida's able to wind him back. MVDP,
he starts moving up gradually, no?
I think MVDP stuffed himself here.
Is he doing the Amstel Gold Race thing where he's like, oh, I've found my way back at this point, now I need to start sprinting early?
No,
and he starts moving rider by rider up towards like P4, roughly?
MVDP rises a really, really bad final hill here. 800 meters to go. Almeida's about to close Jorgensen. Remco's in the wheel. Vingegaard's on Remco's wheel. He's got Pog. Van der Poel has Pog in his wheel. It's uphill. Almeida's just going to keep pacing.
Yeah.
And they're going to close it. He then goes and half wheels Almeida. And so he's done.
Too eager.
Yeah, like he was just too eager in that moment. I don't think it makes the difference. But remember, it's a very short uphill and then it's flat for 250, 300 meters. I don't know why MVDP didn't play it this way. And then when it actually flattens off, he's kind of gassed. Poggy's the least gassed of everybody. Remco and Jorgensen are on a gap. And then in this sprint, Poggy's able to come out of the wheel, wins his 100th professional victory in the rainbow bands. Van der Poel just holds on to second ahead of Vingegaard. UAE wanted the stage win. They took the stage win. They took more time to 6 bonus second delta on Vingegaard. And I think they also didn't put a foot wrong. I mean, it's not just about winning the stage these stages, Benji, but shit can go really wrong. I mean, we saw you can get put on a gap, you can crash, have a mechanical. They had a flawless race pretty much. Almeida was excellent. I think Almeida for third right now is looking very, very strong because he's doing these lead outs and not being put on a gap.
It's also because, like, on paper, you'd say Van der Poel always beats Pogačar on a finish like this. But in the last kilometer, there were a few signals where the moving up rider by rider with Pogačar in the wheel, that's for me an advantage towards Pogačar. Next to that, the aggressiveness of the last 30 kilometers, every single hill being shredded by UAE. Added to that, I felt like Pogačar was going to have the upper hand. And we see Van der Poel crumbling whenever he crumbles in a sprint, which does not happen often, but whenever he does, it looks exactly like this. He gets out of the saddle, can't keep sprinting, sits down, Pogačar bang wins. And he gets his 100th victory in this rainbow jersey. So Wellens taking the KOM yesterday has actually made the picture a little bit better on his Instagram tonight.
Exactly, although he does retake the KOM, I believe, from Tim Wellens. Pogačar wins the stage ahead of Van der Poel. Vingegaard third. Oscar Onley, very impressive fourth. Gregoire fifth. He came back and sprinted there fifth. Almeida sixth. Evenepoel Jorgensen on a 3-second gap. And then Schjelmoser ninth. Volk on 7 seconds. Vauquelin on 10 seconds. Van Aert on 30 seconds led a group of Paripintra, Baudin, Narvaez, and Tobias Johannesson. Maas and Roglic lost 32 seconds. Goal lost 54 seconds with Buitrago and Lipovic. How did Roglic lose 32 seconds?
Well, he was dropped on the last climb and he never came back.
But he was in good position. Like, Schjelmoser shouldn't be dropping Roglic on that climb by that much, but he did.
To be honest, throughout the last 10 days, I have never felt the Roglic hype for the podium. Maybe I will regret saying that by the last 2 weeks, but I don't see that right now. But I think Roglic should be happy that it hasn't crashed out yet, that he hasn't crashed as much as Remco yet. That's a win for Roglic at this point. Yes, it's half a minute, but at the end of the day, if you look at the gaps of last year, if you look at the gaps at the end of the 2024 Tour de France, and we look at GC, the gap between third place and fourth place is 10 minutes. Then there's a minute, 4 minutes in between, another minute and a half. Like, losing half a minute here might not mean much by the end of this Tour de France.
Yeah, I think once we get into the big mountains, it's about who's healthy, and we could be talking minutes rather than seconds. But still, the Bora guy's shipping a lot of time. It's not like Remco losing 3 seconds today. Yeah, that's not like
today was, it's weird to say, but today was a good day for Remco
I think Remco had a very solid stage.
because his podium bid is looking great, especially a day after the crash.
It was good for Remco personally. He had to do a shitload himself positioning-wise. I think he tried to use Van der Poel, but into that descent he took good position, but Van Wilder just avoided a crash. Catania crashed today, so maybe his best rouleur domestique.
It was Catania, right?
I'm pretty sure it was Catania, yeah.
Because initially I thought VPP.
Me too, yeah. So I think for Quickstep more broadly, they were not so good today, especially with that crash won't help. But GC, Van der Poel is still in the yellow jersey on stage placements, I guess, ahead of Pogačar. Vingegaard is on 8 seconds. Jorgensen is on 19 seconds. In 4th, Vauquelin is on 26 seconds. Enrique Mas is in 6th on 48 seconds. Movistar have to be happy with that. Only's in 55 seconds, same time Almeida in 7th and 8th. Evenepoel 58 seconds, Schelmoser 102. Johannesson drops from 8th to 11th. Far is Roglic, huh? Roglic is on 127 in 13th. Lipovic is on 149 in 20th. Goal is on 149. Carlos Rodriguez 205.
Like, they're not the only riders from the top 5, top 10 potential riders that have lost time. But Remco's the best positioned 3rd rider in GC, right? If we look at GC, because you'd say Pogačar, Vingegaard looking fantastic, Enric Mas looking solid when it comes to time as well. But I'd say that Remco I'd expect to be better across the Tour de France. Maybe in the mountains that I might regret saying that. Almeida's looking good in GC as well, so we should not forget him because I actually picked him to podium, so I definitely should not forget him. I actually don't really think these gaps, half a minute there, will matter much in the mountains.
No,
if you're better, and you'll take a minute plus on the others.
Yeah.
On paper.
In the world of Pogačar and Vingegaard gaps, maybe. I mean, probably on Plateau de Bay was the same, but then the rest of the field might be a little bit closer than the gaps they have. In terms of the points jersey, Milan, I mean, with Van der Poel still coming second, taking 30 points, Milan is still 12 points ahead of Van der Poel and Pogačar in the green jersey competition. So you really have to contest the intermediates to be competitive in that competition. And
such a shame Philipsen is out for the sake of the competition itself.
Philipsen would have walked it. Okay.
Is it better for the tension of the green jersey that Philipsen's out?
No, like Milan and Philipsen would have been a good battle, but I think Philipsen would have taken it. But maybe I'm underrating Milan in his train.
Well, based on what we've seen so far, then
let's talk about GC then. The real story, Benji. What conclusions can we draw from this, from Vingegaard and Pogačar?
Well, it's difficult to say because last year I feel like when we saw Vingegaard follow Pogačar on San Luca climb in Firenze, we also had a feeling of like, okay, we've got a battle. It's a 1v1. We've got a Tour de France on our hands. So it's easy to come to that conclusion after a hill stage on day 4. I need to see a high mountain stage before I can conclude Vingegaard is remotely close to Pogačar, which he wasn't at the Dauphiné. So my fear is that we will go to the high mountains and Pogačar will still drop Vingegaard, maybe not Dauphiné style, but there will still be a difference. That's my expectation now. I hope for the sake of a race, it's a close battle, but I'm not sure I believe that, even with today, Vingegaard following Pogačar on that climb.
It certainly helps the tension. We have some pretty hard... We have the TT tomorrow, but yeah, it's better for the tension that Vingegaard didn't get dropped.
Yeah.
That's one of my... it's good to not get dropped. So that being said, it's a really steep wall.
Yeah.
I don't really have any conclusion to draw from this. It's like these two are just so much better than the others, and yeah, Poggy's still the favorite.
And when it comes to the podium candidates, I also don't have a conclusion yet because in the mountains it will be different. You'll see different people come to the forefront. Maybe the same people come to the forefront, but someone else will show up as well, and we'll see a different battle for the podium. So I don't know. I do enjoy seeing the way Jorgensen has been really strong across these days. I don't expect he will podium in the Tour de France, but he will be an important factor in the race in some fashion.
It also shows Jorgensen should do the Ardennes next year or some of the Ardennes.
Yeah.
Like
Vingegaard can't. He'll be laying woodwork in his kitchen.
But for Jorgensen, like the way he's following Remco and co and dropping serious punchers like Gregoire and Vauquelin, I mean, that being said, Benji, in reality, if Vingegaard's not in Liège, style races, like today, like what if Vingegaard's not there today, Poggy wins by
a minute.
No, I mean it's 5Ks, man.
A minute, mate.
And Remco is not
because they start looking at each other. Group 2 syndrome. I'm telling you, Group 2 syndrome can make it a minute. Nah, like 30 seconds.
Yeah, maybe 20, because Remco would just ride full on the flat, but then no one would help
Would
him.
he?
He'd get mad.
He'd get mad?
Yeah. And then Poggy wouldn't have to go as deep on the climb, so he's got more after the climb to push. Got the moto, 30 seconds. So it changes a lot.
A minute wouldn't have happened, that's for sure.
A minute, I don't think that maths doesn't work out.
He would have
to me.
needed the motorbike that was in front of Campenarts in that one descent.
Yeah. Okay, tomorrow's TT from Cayenne to Cayenne. It's 33 kilometers. It's a very, very flat time trial. It's not technical outside of Cayenne. It's long, straight roads. And we have 3 intermediate time checks at 8 kilometers, 16 kilometers, and 24 kilometers. So we have 4 different time checks. Beautiful stuff. We actually love that. It does make it more exciting to have that. Remco's the heavy favorite with Pippo Ganna having abandoned the race with a crash. Remco, I think, looked very, very good today, legs-wise. And Remco, to me, remains the heavy favorite for this stage. Can he make up 58 seconds on Pogačar in this TT?
I don't think so. I think the gap that he can make up is 40-ish seconds. That is my expectation. That's maybe on the high side when it comes to Remco.
In the half the length of a TT in the Dauphiné?
Wow.
He took 48 seconds.
I'm not sure I want to look at the Dauphiné TT for this time trial.
Why?
Up to this point, that looks like an exception for Pogačar's TT performances.
Why? What other TT did he do?
In the last couple of years, we've seen good TTs from Pogačar.
Yeah, but if it was a position problem, I'd be surprised that that's just like fixed in 2 weeks.
That is true.
Because Pogačar's legs, I'm pretty sure they're good.
Are you sure?
So
I haven't seen good ones recently. Couldn't drop Vingegaard. Can't believe it.
I think it's possible Remco takes yellow.
Oh,
But I agree. But
would be great for
it's
Remco.
possible. I don't think it happens because I actually think the hill made it more complicated in that Dauphiné TT for Pogačar. I think a flat TT where he just gets up to speed and in rhythm, he's not losing as much.
You're saying their pacing plan sucks.
To be honest, I don't know what the fuck happened in that TT. He was ass. So, I mean, I don't really know. And would I expect Pogačar to, like you say, do a bad TT again? Not really. So, and it's a flat one. I think it could be close. Remco has to be on special legs. But I think Remco wins the TT.
For me, Remco wins the time trial. I expect a relatively close battle between Pogačar and Vingegaard. The thing is, my default standard for these time trials is Pogačar takes time on Vingegaard. But I've got this feeling that Vingegaard has sometimes surprised me in flat time trials.
Yeah, and also this year, when you look at Vingegaard's done 2 pretty good TTs this year. Dauphiné,
it's been his best performance of the year, 2 time trials.
The Algarve TT and the Dauphiné TT. But what's really stark about those TTs is he didn't take the time in the climbs. He was not average, but he was not the best on the climbs in those TTs. Yeah. He got beaten by Almeida and Algarve on the climb. Malal, he lost time to him. He got even beaten by Gregoire on that climb. The Dauphiné TT on the hill, also, I seem to recall he wasn't taking time. It's the flat where he's been really strong. Is that incorrect pacing? Is that a hilly TT pacing strategy? I don't know. But he's been fast on the flat.
If we look at the equipment differences between the teams, we've had years where Visma was dominating flatter time trial segments. We've had a year early last year, for example, maybe most of last year actually, UAE's TT bike was very fast. In the flat time trials, we saw the entire team performing well. This year, I feel like the battle between the top teams is relatively closer in the sense of equipment, but
no, I think
Visma has stepped up definitely compared to last year, equipment-wise.
I think Remco would go faster on the other setups, some other setups.
So you're saying the spec sucks? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just.
Is that what we're quoting here?
I'm saying Remco goes so fast in TTs because he's a unique one-of-one time trialist who can put out a shitload of power in an insane position.
Yeah.
For over long durations in flat TTs. So it's not necessarily that he has the best setup either.
You reckon UAE will be wearing their AI helmets tomorrow?
Oh, but that was not the actual helmet. Wasn't AI.
Yeah, it isn't.
The design of it. Some graphic
the little
was
art
designed.
thingy on the side.
Bro, Machin loves the AI generated graphics
I hate it.
His favorite one is like the team, and it's like a big red background, like there's fire in the back. And he's got the team in front, and then he's like on top, like the patron. It's like that's his favorite one before a race.
I'm when I saw the AI designed helmet is the way they presented it on social media, I was like, just pay a fucking artist to draw it. Like, I know that we've had some industry changes over the last couple of decades in the world of
I actually think the helmet. I think the helmet looks alright, to be honest.
I don't like it, and I don't like it even more because it's made by AI.
Yeah, but some human okayed their jersey design. I don't know. Like, there was no one in the room that said to them, guys, maybe we shouldn't have a jersey with literal oil stains on it. Like, no one was like, no one in the whole process of that jersey for the Tour de France was like, is no one seeing this?
Yeah, but it shouldn't. We're pointing at the shit jersey design, at the exceptions. To be fair, half the jerseys are shit.
I like the Groupama one.
It looks beautiful.
I like the Groupama one.
Sarah Tizet style, the blue and the red. Oh,
because they've gone anti-gradient. They have an off-color sleeve, and I also really like the Red Bull.
Patrick, we're supposed to be against AI. We will be replaced in a few years.
Yeah, maybe. The Red Bull kit, I really like the blue shorts pop up. They really pop with the white jersey.
Like Total 5 years ago.
Yeah, a little bit. I really like the Red Bull one. I've lost my train of thought. So Remco wins the TT tomorrow. I think I'm looking at the Dauphiné GC standings. That's not particularly helpful. What GC changes do you expect? Well,
the gaps I mentioned are an Remco taking 40-ish seconds on Pogačar and Vingegaard. They could go either way.
Could be 20 second either way.
On paper, I would say Pogačar above Vingegaard, but despite not counting the Dauphiné time trial, it gives like a tiny idea in your head of like, are we sure he's going to beat Vingegaard in this time trial? He should, based on his last 4 years of performance in time trials, but we can't underrate Jonas in a flat time trial either. But I'm going to put Remco, Pogačar, Jonas.
Only's going to get smoked. He's going to lose a shitload of time. Almeida's going to do a really, really good TT.
Yeah. He's
going to move himself into fourth. Skelmos will do okay. Johannesson will lose a shitload of time. Roglic will be looking to move himself. He's probably in fifth or... No, not fifth. But Roglic is firmly back in the top 10 tomorrow. If he's not, then you should panic because he should be killing Only in this TT.
Yep. That is true.
Goal is going to lose more time. Santi looked off today. Is a stage that should suit him. Lipovic did a good TT in the Dauphiné. I don't know if he was just positioning or what, or having to fetch his own bidons every day, so maybe. But I don't see any order change between Pogačar, Vingegaard, Jurgensen, Almeida.
Mm-hmm.
I just see Remco slotting himself in there somewhere. And if it's, that's what I see.
I think so too.
Van der Poel, does he try Benji? I think he has to.
I think, well, if he tries tomorrow, it will take energy away of a potential stage win on stage 6 and 7, which is possible. 6 from the breakaway, 7 from the peloton.
And he's not getting yellow back.
So I would bin it. I would bin yellow and ride it in tomorrow calmly. Fuck respecting the jersey.
No, I changed my mind.
Stage 6, go in the breakaway.
I changed my mind.
Win from the breakaway with a teammate that controls it for you. Stage 7, win on Mule Britannia from the peloton.
Can't he do a try in the TT tomorrow? Lose yellow, be on 25, 30 seconds.
And do it again.
And then just go in the break on stage 6, win and take yellow.
Even if he loses minute.
Yeah. So I think he will try tomorrow.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Not too much.
I love TTs. I'll say it. I love them, especially as I've had enough of these nervous stages. Today was hectic, and I can't wait to see a TT tomorrow where it's more of a race of, well, today's a race of truth, but it's just a different race.
I've got a controversial topic to talk about. Very controversial. Cofidis has had some bikes stolen, I think about a week and a half ago. I think Vasseur was pretty open about it. They also found some of them back. Some of the bikes have been returned or were found in a forest near their hotel. Don't know which stupid burglar robs bikes and then throws it into a forest. Don't know which stupid burglar chooses to steal look bikes from Cofidis instead of a Specialized or something. That's also a question I have. The burglars are not very up to date with the bike brands, in my opinion. That being said, it is good that they got their bikes back.
I'm glad that happened.
But if they don't, what would they be riding?
Oh, the manufacturer would sort it out. But
come on, just think about it for a second.
They would. It's a Tour de France. It's a
Swan
French team.
bikes?
I think, Cofidis have had a tough couple of days with the Coquard furor yesterday. I'm glad they got the bikes returned. And thanks for listening as always. We won't have a watch along for the time trial tomorrow. I'll rest my voice a little bit, and then we'll probably be back for stage 6, depending on whether it's... Yeah, we'll be back for stage 6. Hope you enjoy the recap, and we'll see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao, ciao.